block, a little taller. I was in flight school. This is Roger Gray. Nice to meet you, young man. Hi there. How are you? Very good. Appreciate it. Wait a minute.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. As we get started, first and foremost, I wanted to introduce you to Janine Stang, our national anthem girl. She'll lead from here.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming. In the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? And now for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, I'd like to introduce Chris Hobbs, who's going to do an MIA reading, and there's a display table in this direction near the outside windows. Chris.
As you entered the room, you may have noticed the special table. It's reserved in honor of our missing men. All Americans should never forget the brave men and women who answered our nation's call and served the cause of freedom in a special way. Let me explain the meaning of the table, and then join me in a moment of silent prayer at the end. The table is round to show our everlasting concern. The cloth is white, symbolizing the purity of their motives when answering the call to serve. The single red rose reminds us of the lives of these Americans and their loved ones and friends who keep faith while seeking answers. The red ribbon symbolizes our continued determination to account for them. A slice of lemon reminds us of the bitter fate of those captured and missing in a foreign land. A pinch of salt symbolizes the tears of our missing and their families who long for answers after decades of uncertainty. The lighted candle reflects our hope for their return, alive or dead. The Bible represents the strength gained through faith in our country, founded as one nation under God to sustain those lost from our midst. The glass is inverted to symbolize their inability to share a toast. The chair is empty. They are missing. Please join me in silence. Let us now renew our commitment to honor America's POW and MIAs, to the success of our efforts to account for them, and to the safety of all now serving our nation. And as a token from the Sons of the American Legion, I'm an officer of the Squadron 8 of the Sons of American Legion. We had a fundraiser a couple months ago, a motorcycle trip up to Wenatchee. We wore our shirts and raised money specifically for San DiFrancisco Fund. We are donating $500. I'd like to encourage you all to contribute as well.
Well, by way of an introduction, my name is Roger Gray, and I got acquainted with San Francisco in 1962 when he came here. I want to share a couple of things with you. First and foremost, I see a few members of a non-Greek, if you will, fraternity that was around in the late 50s and early 60s. And those are the men of Elwood, and several of us are here today. So I see a couple right in front of me and one over here and a couple in the back. Would you guys please raise a hand and let people know, especially San's family, who you are? A little higher there, guys. Okay. Thank you. Several of these people wrestled with San and played football with him, and they were all in ROTC with him. So please feel free to get acquainted with them. Next, what's important about today is to kind of reignite and recognize and create some awareness of San Francisco's situation. For those of you that didn't know him, to learn a little bit more about him and what kind of a wonderful man that he was. But also today, we want to share some acknowledgement and recognition of one of our classmates and our OTC guys, Larry Hanley. And he was also a friend of San's, and he died in the war in 1969. His remains were brought home only last year, and his sisters are here with their husbands, and I wonder if we could please have them raise their hand. Thank you very much for coming. Next, I wanted to be sure that you all know that this happened largely due to the efforts of San's sister Terry and her group of friends, but very importantly, this wouldn't have happened without the help from Kelleher Motors. And Phil Kelleher, who cannot be with us today, had this kind of an answer when I walked into his office and I told him the story that I knew about San that I've learned since then. And he said, "Oh my gosh, what can I do to help?" And I said, "Well, gosh, we need a place." He said, "It's here. We can handle it. Besides, I want to provide for the furniture, a lot of the local promotion, all of the food, all of the wine, all of the beer." He's the kind of guy we want to emulate. So a big thank you to Kelleher Motors. There's also a display set up for another special wounded warrior in the back, and that is Scott Smiley. He's the author of Hope Unseen. He's a Pasco High School athlete, state championship football player, state championship wrestler, went on to West Point, Army Ranger, and was very, very severely hurt in Iraq. So he's behind this campaign, and he sent along some books, and they're for sale for $20. So if you'd like one, just drop a $20 bill in the deposit box in the back. The other thing I wanted to acknowledge that this event is going to be filmed, and largely for the benefit of San's family, and of course the Hanley families. And if you'd be interested in having a CD or clips from that can be arranged, and we'll be happy to make that happen. There's also some envelopes that have been passed out. If you'd like to leave a note in that envelope for San's family or for Larry's family, we'd be happy to have that. And also, if you'd be inclined to make a contribution, it could be done in that envelope, dropped in the ballot box in the back, or things could happen by contribution online through Banner Bank. So our filming is being done by John Ward with Clearwater Studios, and we have set up upstairs a special room that's private for anybody that would like to go up there, have the door closed, but be filmed and says, "You know, this is what I remember about San Francisco. This is what I liked about San. I wrestled with him. He was tougher than nails." Or something to say with Larry. And there's a quote over on the poster that tells you a little bit about Larry Hanley. After he completed his tour of duty in Vietnam and having over 100 sorties and was scheduled home and came home for a vacation, he decided to return. And his family asked him, "Why are you going back?" And his answer was, "So a married man won't have to." So anyway, he is a special guy and a part of the connection with San. So now it's my honor to introduce a very special lady that I've gotten acquainted with recently, and she's going to make a couple of other introductions. So Terry, would you please come forward? This is Terry Francisco Farrell.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank everybody for being here. The city of Ellensburg made today San Francisco Day, and I think it's quite an honor, and I'm glad that you all could be here to share it with us. I'd like to thank the people that have helped me get to where I am. There's many to thank, but I have a board that I would like to introduce to you. If you'd come forward, Rick Redden, come forward. Rick's father, Ron Redden, was a close friend of my brother's here at Central. Roger Gray. And Joetta Rupert. Joetta's been a big help. She works for the coalition, the Columbia Basin Veterans Coalition in the Tri-Cities, so through their organization, they were able to help me get to DC this last trip, which a lot of interesting things happened and have gotten me spring-loaded and ready to go. So anyway, I just want to thank everybody for being here. It's truly an honor, and San's son is here. Todd, would you like to come forward? Or would you like to just... This is Todd and his daughter, Shelby. And I'm glad to see he's a 12th man also, because his aunt is very diehard. So anyway, I hope you enjoy the evening, and remembrances about San, keep him alive for all of us, especially for the family. So I'd appreciate it if everybody would share their memories with us, and let's just enjoy the evening, and I thank you all for being here.
One quick story. One of the football players that San played with was a guy named Jack Curtright. Many of you know him. He was a great athlete, and he couldn't be here today. But he shared this story with me a couple of weeks ago. And Todd, this one's for you. But way back before Todd was into this world, he was snuggled away in his mother's womb, and there was some kind of a poker party at his house. And those football guys were there, and Curtright was one of them. And there was a discussion, and by the way, this is the kind of stuff you can tell up in their private room. But there was a discussion about, what are we going to call this guy? And frankly, San didn't have a name picked out. Curtright popped up and says, listen, I don't know what we're going to name him, but his initials need to be TD, standing for touchdown. And sure enough, we got it right. So anyway, I wanted to introduce Rod Lally to you, who was also a wrestler at Central with San, an ROTC guy, and also a special career in the Air Force. And we want him to briefly acknowledge the service folks that are here, by war, etc. And so I'm going to turn this over. He was also one of San's very good friends.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say thank you to all of you for being here today. I knew San personally very, very well.
Hey, Rod, speak up a little bit. There you go.
I got to get up. Okay, excuse me. San and I knew one another very, very well. We were in class together. We were in ROTC together. We were on the wrestling team together. My wrestling career didn't last very long. I think San lasted a bit longer than I did, but of course, one of the better memories I have of San was the time we spent in ROTC together. And I recall that both he and Larry and I were commissioned in the Air Force, as I recall, during the summer of 1966, and we all left for pilot training. I didn't hear anything about them after that, but heard in subsequent years what had happened to them. And having served in Vietnam myself and understanding the risks involved in flying up north, the risks that these guys took were horrendous. So I think it's with great pride that we should recognize both of them today, actually. I'd like to just take a moment, if I could, and introduce Jim and Lillian Brooks. I'm sure all of you here know them, and their family members, if they're here. Jim, of course, was the university president at the time, San, and Larry and myself were all students here. So Jim, Lillian, any other family members that are here, I'm starting to lose my voice. Please stand for a moment, if you would. The what? Okay. And now we'd like to just take a moment and, if we could, recognize the veterans that are here by a show of hands, standing up, whatever way you choose to do that. First, World War II veterans, if you could please raise your hands here in the room. A special thanks to you guys. My dad was in the Navy during World War II and served out in the Pacific. Actually was at Pearl Harbor the day they bombed it. And also the Korean War veterans. Do we have some of those here today, I hope? And if we do, could you please raise your hands? And Vietnam veterans, if we have a few of those here. And finally, any veterans here that may have served in Kuwait or any of the Gulf conflicts in recent years, could you please raise your hands? I think, I hope I did a good job. I was called in at the last minute as a substitute, so I wasn't really prepared for this. But anyhow, I'll turn it back over to Roger.
Well, Mother Nature kind of dealt us a tough blow today. We did have a 12-plane MII flyover scheduled for over the Tomlinson Field at the homecoming game. And that was set up and organized by Colonel Dick Iverson, who's one of our Elwood guys, but also was a close friend of Sands, wore his bracelet for 15 consecutive years following. And it's really sad that we couldn't make that happen. But what those guys gave us, all 12 pilots, was a real rain check for another day. So what we're ready to do is stop and mingle and eat and drink, but I wanted to let you know that in a half hour, 45 minutes, we'll get back on the microphone and turn things back over to Janine for another song and a reading and a couple of things that she does for our servicemen and women around the world. So anyway, we'll close at this portion. We've got alcoholic drinks in this direction, coffee, tea, and soft drinks, and the food is ready, and we can be served from each end of the table, so there will be 2 serving lines. And Jerry Horn, prosecutor from Tacoma Country, it's good to see you. Roommate of Sands back at Wilson Hall in the early days. Thank you.
Be a difficult thing to do to deal with.
I was about to say I saw everything in rehearsal.
This one is, let's I think they're somewhere, but I don't know where. I'm sure they're upstairs.
compliment. I spent 300 more than one. Yeah, and it cost me.
Okay. Want to say your name?
Jim Cummings.
And there you are there. Korea.
I was only about 18 then.
Wow.
That was taken at about 46.
Wow.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above. From the mountains to the prairies to the oceans wide with foam. God bless America, my home sweet home. God bless America, my home sweet home. Thank you. And don't forget, I'm going to be over there. Please donate for the poem and also the book. You've got options. Okay, Roger, it's all you.
Ready.
Don Zimmer played with San Francisco in the 1963 Central football team that was undefeated, and one of the only teams that has been undefeated at Central. So, and he was just a class kid, quiet, great wrestler, tough football player, just a dedicated student, and was a real fun person to have around and have on the team.
My name is John H. Lindeman. It's an honor to be here. I am a Vietnam veteran. I went through basic training, AIT, OCS, Officers Candidate School at Fort Benning, Airborne Ranger, 82nd Airborne Division, Vietnam. And I was wounded in the right shoulder and understand the camaraderie of anybody in the military. And it is a support that needs to happen from everybody. I didn't know San D. Francisco at all. But I moved to Kennewick, Washington, where he grew up about 25 years ago. And because of this effort, I've asked many people now in Kennewick, where he grew up, about him. And everybody said he was a gentleman, he was a very good athlete, he was a very good student, he was just a very good person. And it made me feel good. One of my best friends is a graduation mate of D. Francisco's. She walked up with him during graduation and speaks very highly of him. Everybody that I talk to speaks very highly of him. And it's about time to bring him home. This whole story reminds me of the movie The Samurai. Towards the end of the movie, when the samurai was killed, Tom Cruise brought his sword to the Emperor of Japan and offered it to the Emperor as a tribute to the samurai. And the Emperor asked Tom Cruise, how did he die? The response was, I can't tell you how he died, but I can tell you how he lived. And I think that's appropriate for this effort to retrieve San D. Francisco from Vietnam and bring him home. And indeed, I can tell you, and you can see by the people's comments and the tributes, how he lived. And he was an officer and a gentleman. Oh. And I commend his sister for making Terry for making these efforts. It's been a lifelong goal, and this effort today is extraordinary. And I have so many. I mean, it's like, the tree of life. Tree of life. It's a symbol of the Huichol Indians in Mexico, and the tree of life. The people who have come before us, they become the roots. And in order to grow a strong tree, you'll have to have a good set of roots. And this is what this reminds me of, is the fact that the people are all coming together, and what decision we make today, tomorrow we become the roots in order to grow a strong tree. And that strong tree partly is to bring San D. Francisco home. So, that's my story, I suppose, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah, my name's Dennis Raffleson, and I attended flight school with San, and that's where I first met him, in Del Rio, Texas, at Laughlin Air Force Base. Most of us in flight school were single, and there were a few of us out of our class, maybe 5, 6, that were married. And San and I hit it off really well together. I knew Kay and their little son Todd. At that time, he's grown to quite a man now. He's much taller than San was. But I used to share a number of times a month where we would drop over to the house and either have some drinks in the evening or have dinner and share dinner with them. Had a very interesting story that all of this came about. Well, I was at the Oregon-Washington State football game about 3 weeks ago in an RV, and we were in the WSU section that parks the RVs. And I met a gentleman next door to me that was about 2 years senior to me at WSU, and we talked all about Vietnam. And I went back into the RV, and I was sitting there, and all of a sudden there was a knock on the door. And I went to it, and he came up to me and said, "This is a real long shot." He says, "I'm from Kennewick, but did you ever know a guy by the name of San Francisco?" I said, "Are you kidding me?" I said, "San and I were classmates in 68C in Del Rio, Texas, in primary and secondary flight school." And so we talked for a number of minutes, and then I went into the RV, and I was talking to my wife about meeting this guy and everything about San. And the phone rings, and it's her sister, Gail Shelton, who lives in Ellensburg. She called and she said, "Do you remember when," and she was talking to her sister, she said, "Do you remember when you and I were on the East Coast and we were taking our two nieces from Bermuda who were going to be moving to the United States for school? We took them on a tour of the whole East Coast, and it was very, very important to you to understand the significance of what people have sacrificed for this country." And they went to the wall and they took a paper and a pencil and scribed off San Francisco's name. And my wife said this was one of Denny's favorite classmates from flight school that was lost in the war. And this is what Americans do for this country. And so anyway, she calls on the phone to my wife and said, "You're not going to believe this. They are going to have a fundraiser memorial for San Francisco in Ellensburg on the 18th of October. I mean, I can't even believe this. Out of nowhere, I see in the newspaper that this name comes forward that you showed me back in Washington, D.C. And we just sat there in awe that evening how my next door neighbor played football with San and grew up with San in Kennewick. And then my sister-in-law calls me about this, and I mean, it was just amazing. And we said, well, we've got to attend this. I don't care, we're going to attend. And so we're here, and San was one of a very special group of people. When you're in flight school, you bond very closely with a number of different people. And San and his wife, Kay, of course, Todd was just about 3 years old, I think, at that time, and was running around, and San was convincing him how to carry the football. But they were special people. And of all of my classmates that I lost in Vietnam, San is probably the one that crushed my heart the most, and I don't go by a week in my life that I don't think about him. That's all I got.
Okay, my name is Alan Morrow. Actually, San would have known me as Roy Morrow because that's my first name. I use my middle name and have all my life, other than during the Air Force years. I met San for the first time in probably the last week of September 1962. an ROTC when all the freshmen at Central at that point had to take ROTC, and San and I and probably 500 or 600 other men, young men, were in ROTC. Ultimately, they changed that rule, and San and I, along with about 15 or 16 other guys, decided to stay in ROTC. So I had a class with San every quarter for 12 quarters at Central. Became good friends, good buddies. We graduated in 1966. San went to flight school. Unfortunately, I was not qualified. I went on to other things in the Air Force, but we lost track of San. Some years later, I was talking to another classmate and discovered that San had been shot down in Vietnam and was missing in action, which was a little traumatic at the time, because it's hard to lose a friend. And Larry Hanley was another one in our class, and also we lost Larry at the same time. In 1991, I went to Washington, D.C. On business, and I made an effort to go visit the wall. I think that's something every American should do, and I have a belief that every American general should be forced to spend a couple of hours every month there looking at the wall. But anyway, I was at the wall, and I found San's name. And I took a picture, like a lot of folks, some did rubbing. I took a picture, which I have at home on my wall. But I left there, and I went up, and there were a number of kiosks at that time that were selling memorabilia just off between the wall and the Lincoln Memorial. And I walked up to it, and I looked at the first bin, and the first thing I saw was a notice that said San D. Francisco. Along with it was a bracelet. Pure coincidence, I guess, but it was a coincidence that made me first buy the bracelet, and second, honor it for many years. San was a great man, and his family needs to understand that. He was a great student at Central. I was not an athlete, but I did other things with him. You'll hear from athletes probably, but he was a great man, and he's greatly missed, and hope he can come home. That's it.
My name is Lauren Danielson. I'm 22 years old, and I'm a senior in the Air Force ROTC program here at Central. Morning thoughts. Well, I'm really here to talk about kind of a tradition we have here in ROTC. Every 2 years, a senior will pass off this bracelet. This is a Palmia bracelet for San. I'm not sure how long the tradition's been going on, but 2 years ago this June, is when I received it from the senior before me. It gets passed down every 2 years to a sophomore who's getting ready to go to field training that summer. It gets passed off to a cadet who resembles those traits of San, and both patriotism as well. Like I said, I don't know how long the tradition's been going on, but receiving it that night when it was the night of commissioning, that senior commission, became a second lieutenant, passed it on to me. It was an extremely humbling experience. I didn't know what to make of it at the time, but I have worn it every day ever since I received it, and I can tell you it's provided me with a lot of motivation. It's given me a lot of courage. It's helped me make decisions. It's put me on a good path ever since I received it. It's done a lot for me just wearing it. There's been days where I might get out of the shower and I forget to put it on, and I just feel lost without it, of that presence. Like I'll forget to put my watch on sometimes, and I just feel weird without it. If I forget to put on this bracelet, it's a different feeling. I'm kind of in a panic whenever I'm not wearing it. It kind of hits me like a ton of bricks, and I don't know what to do. Like I said, it gives me courage and motivation both in life, in school. When I'm working out, I might be running that mile, doing something, and I'm dying and I'm dead tired, and I just look down at the bracelet, and it gives me all the motivation and everything I need to keep on pushing forward. And I just want to let the family know that the detachment here hasn't forgotten, and this is a tradition that has been passed on Like I said, I don't know how long it's been going on, but every 2 years it'll get passed down from a senior who commissioned to a sophomore. And also every single cadet, I'm told, that has worn this bracelet in the program has received the pilot slot. And so I received mine last February, and I plan on passing this bracelet down to a 200 who resembles those same qualities, those same characteristics as San, and who will also be going for pilot. That decision is ultimately up to me. This is kind of just a cadet-run thing. It's basically up to my good judgment, as well as, I'll be asking my friends, my fellow 400s, the seniors in the program, who we think is deserving. Because wearing this bracelet, it's a great honor. Everybody in the 400 class, everybody knows about this bracelet and knows what it means to wear it. And so it'll be up to us to decide who we think lives up to those standards and deserves to be the one to wear this bracelet.
My name is Bill Burvey. I was on the wrestling team with San back in the early 60s. Got to know him very well, great guy. Later I helped recruit him as a meat lugger at the local packing company, where we used to work in the evenings loading trucks with quarters of beef, and continued a good relationship. Later, I was drafted and sent to Vietnam, and I was returning when he was going over. I guess I feel I'm very fortunate, one of the lucky ones, to make it back. But there's a place in my heart for his family, for San, and the sacrifice that he made for his country. And I miss not having San to visit with. I remember as a wrestler, he was a tough competitor. Tall, he was strong, he had a great smile, good work ethic. Just a super guy, a friend, someone who you wanted to be your friend and be his friend.
Leroy Johnson. I knew San at Central. I wrestled with him on the wrestling team. Knew him from Elwood and worked with him. Worked with him out at Shockey Packing Company. And that's the most vivid memory I have of him is in his white helmet, and we all had white coats on that we used to load these trucks with. But he was, we're all wrestlers out there that did this. So yeah, he was. He could handle beef pretty well in that truck. And we lived in college apartments, which San also lived in college apartments, and we knew his wife, Kay, I think that's her name, and they had a son, Todd, their firstborn was named Todd, and my wife at the time and I, Karen and I, our first son, we named him Todd also, so I don't know, that's kind of ironic. But knew San on the wrestling team also. He was a tough wrestler, really good. Knew him from ROTC. After I graduated from Central, he was 2 years behind me, so I didn't, I didn't know what had happened to him when he went in the Air Force or anything, but knew that he was shot down, and of course I wore his PW bracelet for a number of years. So great memories of the guy, though, super guy, just would, do anything for you, just a super guy, super friend, good guy, good man. I hope they can, bring him back and bury him here with honor. So it'd be great, it'd be super.